Having talked about analog horror entities you could beat and wouldn't survive against over multiple videos had me thinking, could the Doomslayer beat the creatures and entities of analog horror? But more specifically, the demons of Dr. Nowhere. As you may or may not know, Doomslayer is the demon-slaying protagonist of the Doom series, but I think we all know him best as Doom Guy. Despite that, I'll be calling him the Doomslayer throughout the video because of reasons I'll get into very soon and because it has some real punch and oomph to it. He's an unstoppable killing machine that will rip and tear through any and all of demonkind. So what is Dr. Nowhere and what are his monsters? Dr. Nowhere is a YouTube channel created by Silas Orion. In his videos and Instagram posts, oddities, entities, and creatures of the demonic kind are the main focus. Arguably, the most famous one of them all, the Boiled One, also known as Fen228, is a cognitive demon. The rest of the monsters that can be found on the channel and Instagram possess similar demonic appearances and powers. Those sound like they'd be tough to beat, so we'll be going through the heavy hitters of Dr. Nowhere's creations to see if the Doomslayer can truly beat them. Like and subscribe if you end up enjoying the video, and everything I talk about will be linked in the description for you to check out as well. I'll also have my second channel, Soda Jump, linked there too. And with all of that being said, let's dive into can the Doomslayer beat the demons of Dr. Nowhere?
Target is marked, but the signal will not hold for long.
For it is he that they fear, not man, or his armies. They fear the mark of the beast.
The Boiled One was mentioned in the intro, and that's where we'll be starting things off. This tall, melted looking demon is something you'd never wish to bestow on even your worst enemies. It enters the minds of its victims by viewing him in video or image form. On the 13th of August 2003, a rerun of the 13th episode of a 90s now classified kids documentary series about woodland plants and animals was broadcasted seemingly out of nowhere in Pennsylvania. During this, Fen228 would hijack the broadcast and speak warm yet deeply disconcerting to the viewers in their native tongue. This is known as Broadcast 813. The footage we're shown is shortened, muffled, reversed, and dampened, but I'll have text on screen here so you can see exactly what it was saying. And as you can see, once it's seen you, you'll see it forever in your mind. It'll watch over you as you sleep, with one victim claiming that the face was living in his brain and feeding on his spine. Another even stated that they could hear trumpets playing in their ears before falling asleep. In the Bible's book of Revelation, it stated that 7 angels would sound trumpets, with each one bringing an apocalyptic event to Earth with the establishment of God's kingdom being the end result. The Boiled One doesn't seem to be part of this prophecy, but it is part of a world-ending one where what looks like blood or some other red liquid will rain down from cracks in the skies and will all be melded together. Boiled together, some may say. Worse yet, most of the victims were diagnosed with a pseudocoma, aka locked-in syndrome, an extremely rare condition leaving them to be conscious but unable to move or communicate verbally. This is all due to paralysis of the body except for vertical eye movements and blinking. And with roughly 530 residents of southern Pennsylvania seeing Broadcast 813, who knows how many more victims are experiencing all of this as well as paranoia and anxiety. And that brings us to the Doomslayer. Can he defeat Fen228, the Boiled One, a cognitive demon, or as I said in my last video talking about it, a cognitive demon? Well, let's weigh things up. The Doomslayer is a Doom Marine, but not just any old one. His legacy has spanned over many games, and he's gone from a raging demon killer to a no longer mortal raging demon killer. He was given his Doomslayer name and title after submitting himself to the divinity machine in the Chapel of Purity, offering himself to a maker known as the Seraphim to defeat a titan called the Dreadnought. He was blessed with incredible speed and power to accompany his thirst for demon blood. He took the Crucible, a weapon held for a true Sentinel Warrior King, and slayed the Dreadnought. The Sentinels then gave him the title soon after, and all of this happens before the events of Doom 2016. So, he's transcended his human physiology, no longer needing food, water, or even rest in his fight against demons spanning centuries. He's something akin to a god or a being immortal, an inhuman and immense amount of strength, speed, agility, reflexes, stamina, endurance, and durability would be what faces the Boiled One. Not only that, but the Doomslayer can use and absorb runes and Argon energy to gain new abilities, upgrades to weapons, and stats. He can also absorb the souls of those he kills to become stronger, can utilize the Berserk and Haste power-ups which would usually kill or drive a regular human mad, and on top of that, he's smart enough to be able to modify his Praetor suit. And these are his traits and abilities without a weapon. Imagine if he had one of his many weapons he's been able to use throughout the Doom series. He is massive, his arsenal is massive, and the Boiled One is finished. If the Doomslayer laid eyes on it through a broadcast or an image, he would be in charge regarding whether or not it entered his mind or not. And if he does let it enter his consciousness, he would be able to resist the pseudocoma out of sheer strength, and would never see the Boiled One watching over him as he sleeps, because he doesn't. Once the Doomslayer is aware of the Boiled One and can see him, it would only be a matter of time before Fen 228 is no more. I'd wager that the fight would be over quickly, considering that Fen just doesn't look strong and acts more like a messenger than anything. And its biggest strength is its cognitohazardous properties and ability to seemingly change its size. All of its victims become riddled with paranoia and anxiety before being paralyzed and fed on. The Doomslayer doesn't become paranoid or anxious, and as already stated, his body would simply not allow him to fall into a pseudo-coma. However, more than likely, he wouldn't be able to use his conventional and unconventional weapons in his arsenal since the demon is tied to his cognition. He would be strong enough to attack anything invading his mind, and that also means that he would have to use his bare hands, putting a whole new meaning on the saying, right to bare arms. Because he can and will rip and tear through any demon with them. The Boiled One wouldn't stand a chance, and neither would the sky tearing open. If demons or anything else poured out of it jeopardizing humanity and the earth, you already know that the Demon Slayer would launch himself right at it. Next up on the chopping block for the Doomslayer is Father Fester, also known as Father Harvest, a sickly and sadistic looking demonic creature with a long face, unhinged jaw, thin yet razor sharp teeth, pale skin, and dark, caved in eyes. Its size is massive as well, and we never actually get to see its true and full size as it's always cloaked by darkness. Probably because most of the photos we do have of it show it skulking around places that are sized well for humans but cramped for it. Now, not much is known about Father Fester, but we do see that its appearance slightly shifts from image to image. It could be changing or evolving over time. Who knows, but its biggest strength is its infinite hunger for anything and everything. I'm talking food, objects, minerals, people, souls, feelings, emotions, concepts, meanings, time, and space. Nothing is off of the table, and it'll make its way here, slowly but surely. A universe-level threat sounds like quite the adversary for the Doomslayer. It may not demonstrate the sheer amount of strength and power of a titan or godly being from the Doom series, but the fact that it can eat anything and is always hungry is a feat of strength and power on its own, just in a different way. This means that Doomslayer would have to not only worry about being shredded and eaten physically, but mentally and conceptually. Even things around both of them would face that fate. The issue I see with the latter two is how could we even fathom that as mere humans and mortals? How do you even devour a concept, let alone something mental? We can safely assume that the Doomslayer would have to navigate carefully while attacking the father, as it would be ingesting the environment around the both of them, possibly causing anomalies if common laws of the universe were eaten or damaged. Which, again, how would Father Fester even go about doing this? It really boggles the mind, and this fight might even determine the fate of the universe. I would say that Father Fester's biggest weakness is his frail and lanky looking body. You'll notice that that's a common theme with these monsters, and despite their physical strengths, flesh is flesh, and if there's less of it, then it's easier to rip and tear through. An interesting coincidence that I found in the Doom universe is that there's a being called the Father, an ancient and divine being that is supposedly responsible for all of creation, and Father Fester here can eat all of creation. The Doomslayer would need everything in his arsenal to stand a chance. It is insane to think that there's something that could stand in Doomslayer's way, but something that has the ability to eat anything would be the one to do so. And that leaves us with the question, can the Doomslayer beat this demonic entity, Father Fester, aka Father Harvest? The scales don't seem to be tipped in the favor of the Slayer. On one hand, Father Fester can eat anything, so the fight could be over very quickly, but Doomslayer can't lose. Can he? It feels like it would be impossible for him to do so. I've thought a lot about this for this video, and I believe that with enough close quarters combat to keep pressure on Father Fester and enough adaptation when it devours a concept like time and space, or laws of physics like combustion that makes bullets fire, the Doomslayer can and will beat it, especially if it's affected by its own gluttony. I mean, it could just straight up die if it ate something that's so closely tied to its existence, right? Or at the very least, handicap itself. Up next for the Doomslayer is something that's probably the most surreal and demonic creature in Dr. Nowhere's catalogue, Neph. This cruelty squad looking abomination is the main protagonist in a children's TV series, The Happy Hungries, that was produced during the early 5000s. Quote, due to the escalation of famine and heat exhaustion on Earth, humanity had become physiologically shattered and created the series as a desperate attempt to emulate their innocent past. Neph is a flayed being, anchored to a dark void via his own nerves. Interestingly, these nerves appear to be developing their own personality and consciousness. Despite the fact that Neph is always smiling, his nerves often upset him. End quote. How this emulation of humanity's innocence is achieved through what we're seeing is it's just beyond me, especially when we see what Neph is and does. I can't even comprehend it. Can you comprehend it? Perhaps that's the point. To emulate our innocent past, we're shown our defiled future, and we're the innocent past looking at that defiled future. This is a flayed, demon-like creature that needs to be put down, and I know the Doomslayer can. It doesn't matter that it's the protagonist of a children's show. Look at it, it needs to be put out of its misery. Now, the biggest thing that the Doomslayer would need to consider is the personality and consciousness that Neph's nerves are developing, but also upsetting him, and the severe psychological and neurological disturbances that manifest as, quote, an immediate physical brain expansion, and any sort of metaphysical explorations of the show are highly discouraged. That would also extend to Neph, obviously. How can you not be tempted to try to understand what this is and it all means? Firstly, a brain expansion shouldn't be an issue for Doomslayer, as he would be able to resist these effects. He's just too physically strong and durable. If mind and body shattering side effects humans face from taking the Berserk or Haste power-ups only enhance Doomslayer, then what's to say that maybe the brain expansion won't do the same, or that he would resist it? He would be a-okay when ripping and tearing through Neph as well, probably putting him out of his misery, as mentioned before. And secondly, Doomslayer would have to deal with the conscious nerves of Neph, which, if they're like Neph, are also chained up in the void. Neph being chained up really makes him an easy target for Doomslayer. But what if he wasn't flayed and chained up? Well, I have a feeling he'd look like how a lot of people would look in the early 5000s. Famished, and the fact that he's even alive has to be some sort of miracle of science, or deal with the devil. Something that shouldn't have been created that can and will be put down by Doomslayer. And next up, we have the monster from Dr. Nowhere's first 3 videos, TOE 1, 2, and 3, which used to be called Starving.Help, Love.Thumper, and Making.Friends. This demonic entity is called the Locust, and the 3 videos we have of it seem to be provided by the Organet Enterprise, hence the TOE titling. Now, the Locust seems to be a black and lanky biomechanical nightmare of sorts that sits way too deep in the uncanny valley. Its main way of attacking its victims is through a screen of some kind that it needs to find its way to enter, and that screen can be a computer, personal, or mobile device that the Locust can access in some way. As we see in the 3rd video, it manages to convince Dominic, the friend of a victim, to face call, and it doesn't end well for Dominic. His organs are presumably eaten just like with the other victims, and the Locust can even sit and wait in a device like a television. Just try and hide from the fucking Doomslayer. The Locust would be living in fear if it knew that there was a chance that it could go face to face with Doomslayer. After all, it does act very childish and probably is mentally to lure in prey despite it being a predatory creature. That wouldn't matter to someone like the Doomslayer. Childlike or not, a demon is a demon. What makes the Locust so strong to a regular old person like you or myself is his extreme speed and sharp razor-like arms. But Doomslayer's godly strength, speed, and endurance can and will outclass anything the Locust throws at it. He wouldn't even need his arsenal since it would make their fight even more trivial. Even so, I could see Doomslayer's meat hook coming in handy for the fight. Since the Locust is seen to be very tall outside of its weird vintage wallpaper room, a device like a hookshot used to maneuver towards it and around to go higher up would be useful. Engaging the Locust would have to be a dance between close and range combat for the Slayer, considering that its fast and childlike behavior might be erratic and it could try to flee. Honestly, it just might look a bit like the fight with Majora in The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. My favorite game of all time, and just without the goofy dances and more of the childish behavior. Doomslayer has an abundance of options for close and ranged weaponry, so it's no issue. Something as simple as the chainsaw or shotgun would be devastating to the wire-like appendages of the Locust, and anything like the heavy assault rifle or Gauss cannon can be used at longer ranges with ease. And just like that, it would be lights out for the Locust. Doomslayer can and will beat it. Now, I want to shift towards the video, the Oddity Compendium Installment 1. This video covers 3 types of strange beings. I want to look at the second monster found in the video, the corpses of the Headless Macrocosm. The Headless Macrocosm is believed to be a form of anti-reality that the universe uses to dump away the useless or harmful to existential fabric. People have been sent there after falling asleep during strange circumstances, and a couple thousand reside there now. Anyone sent to the anti-reality will be forgotten in reality. The corpses found in the reality also appeared to be long, pale, lanky, and docile for the most part. They breathe through their neck holes where their heads should be, and their hearts have been seen to convulse at random intervals. One of them, however, ripped the head off of a person and wore it to become them and leech off their existence. And that made it appear in our reality. It seems that these corpses are in a constant state of yearning to reconnect with the roots of reality again, our reality, which used to be theirs at one point as well. It's believed that they had been taken a hold of by a dangerous and contagious disease. The disease? Non-existence itself. It can affect anyone on Earth, and when it has a hold of you, the Headless Macrocosm deems you valid for residence in its anti-reality. But none of that really matters to Doomslayer because he can't sleep, therefore he wouldn't be taken to the Headless Macrocosm. For argument's sake, if he somehow found his way into the anti-reality, his body would most likely kill the non-existence disease due to how resilient and strong it is, which in theory should force him to appear back into our reality. But if the corpses suddenly started appearing in our reality after stealing someone's head, Doomslayer would be able to beat them. The corpses appear similar, but their size can change dramatically, even being taller than a house. Despite being so lanky, they possess a high amount of strength as they're able to rip the head off of a person, but because they're so lanky, that makes them all the more easier to rip and tear through. I have a feeling that the corpses may be Headless Macrocosm residents that have perished and had the virus warp them into demonic looking monstrosities. Kind of like how the Zombie Man or Possessed in the Doom series are demonically reanimated humans. Doomslayer has no issue killing them, and you'd have no issue killing the corpses too. They're too far gone to be left alive if they're going to steal the heads of people and make their way back to reality by doing so. And then what? They disrupt and traumatize the lives of hundreds, thousands, maybe even millions of people? Any sort of tactic the Doomslayer employs, like mobility, weapons, you name it, is all there for him to make quick work of the corpses. And rightfully so.
My soul remains guarded. You can.
If you made it this far into the video, thanks for doing so. It means a whole bunch to me, and just quickly, I have a few honourable mentions before we wrap things up. I wanted to include these in the main bulk of the video, but while scripting, figured that they were a bit too simple or there wasn't enough to talk about. First up, the flesh beds found in the Oddity Compendium Installment 1 video. These mattress mimics are simply just too easy to beat if you really think about it. It would just take something like a chainsaw or flame belch, and that's that, honestly. Anything else simple would work too, especially since the flesh beds are noted to attack their prey while they sleep. Enclair was an interesting entity I wanted to look at too. A person encountering Enclair will experience an overwhelming wave of guilt, forcing them to relive every transgression they have ever committed. Enclair will present the person with a choice to repent or defy. Repenting grants you an acceptance and seeking of remorse for your past actions, and defying will be met with anger by the Enclair. Its radiant glow will become more and more intense until the light is strong enough to incinerate you instantly. I didn't include it because, come on, we all know that the Doomslayer would repent if he needed to, giving no reason for Enclair to attack him, and if he did defy it because he has no remorse for what he's done for the greater good, it wouldn't survive. Finally, we have Philbus. This thing's just a weird guy with a chair-like lower body. Philbus is associated with Philbism, a practice of consuming a chair to honor Philbus. Anyone viewing media on Philbus or Philbism will be compelled to practice Philbism, however, they'll remain adamant in their denial of both Philbus and Philbism. This guy's just a little goof, a little gaff, and the Doomslayer wouldn't fall for it. He would rip and tear the indoctrination and reign of Philbus and Philbism to the ground if it stood in his way. Screw Philbus and Philbism, and I for one think... hang on. Does anyone else feel what I'm feeling? This strange, euphoric in nature sensation? I'm compelled to eat my chair, and I must do so. Well, with all of that being said, what have we learnt today? No matter how big and powerful the adversary is, the Doomslayer can and will find a way to beat it. Thanks for watching the video all the way to the end. Leave your thoughts on the video and what was discussed in the comments section. Do you think that the Doomslayer would actually lose to any of these demons? Let everyone know. Leave a like, subscribe, and check out my second channel Soda Jump if you want to see more from me too. Thanks to all of you that suggested taking a look at Dr. Nowhere's monsters for a video. I slotted Doomslayer in there too because I thought it would add an interesting and creative spin to the video. And you know what? I think I was right. So I hope you all enjoyed that, and perhaps I'll look to make more videos like this in the future. And as always, we can't forget the shoutouts to my lovely patrons and YouTube members, and a big shout out to the highest tier Patreon members, Joel Matthew Colgrove and La Creatura, and a big shout out to the highest tier YouTube member too, Fogman8U. Thank you for your continued contributions, and thank you to everyone else too. You guys are absolute legends. Stay tuned for more content like this. Everything talked about will be in the description if you want to further look into them, and I'll catch ya in the next one.